Hey y'all, welcome to Between the Rows podcast, brought to you by Lenore County Cooperative Extension. I'm your host, Rachel Howell, and each episode will dig into all things agriculture, from the fields to the future. Whether it's crops, technology, markets, or equipment, we're talking about everything and everyone that keeps agriculture growing. From stories to insights, challenges, and ideas, you'll be hearing from voices that shape North Carolina agriculture. So, climb in your truck or hop in your tractor and let's get between the rows.
Hi everyone, I'm absolutely thrilled to have Miss Hannah Howe, the Greene County Field Crop Agent, on the show. Welcome to Between the Rows, Hannah.
Thank you for having me.
We work together on regional meetings and programming and going to field days, but there's some growers that are probably listening that don't know about you yet. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and about your role as the Field Crop Agent for Greene County?
Yeah, so like you said, my name is Hannah Howe. I'm the Field Crop Extension Agent for Greene County. I've been here for about 3 years. So I'm originally from Selma, North Carolina. I went to NC State and got my bachelor's in horticulture, and then I went back and got my master's in crop science. And then I went straight to Greene County and started as their field crop agent, and I have really loved it ever since I've started.
That's wonderful. Being a field crop agent is such a rewarding job. Since Greene County has some incredible farmland there, what crops make up majority of the county's acreage as far as agriculture goes?
Majority of our acreage is corn and soybeans, but we have a very diverse range of field crops that are in our county.
Can you tell me a little bit more about those?
Yeah, so we have corn, soybeans, we have wheat, cotton, peanuts, and tobacco.
That's a really good mix, which makes our jobs lots of fun because we never know what we're going out to look at each and every day. Looking at how things have played out since we put the seed in the ground earlier on this growing season, how would you describe the growing season so far?
This growing season has definitely been challenging. Started off early in the growing season, we were extremely dry. That really had a big impact on our corn. As we gone through the growing season, we've started to get more rain, and we're really hoping that we get some more towards the end, but not too much.
That's very true. It definitely has been an interesting growing season, to say the least. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen your growers facing right now?
The biggest challenges that we've seen has been our drought stress, and then we're starting to see more and more disease issues pop up. The biggest challenge so far that I've personally looked at has been disease in tobacco this year.
That's been a big problem here in Lenore County. So it's funny to think about how different it can be with agriculture just across the county line, even though we're so close to one another. So I would like for you to comment on some of the differences you've been seeing in your county as opposed to other counties. I know we travel around the state going to different field days and things. So what would you say about your county and other counties in terms of crop conditions?
Oh yeah, so I come through Wayne County every morning on the way to work. It really depends on where you are in each county and how much rain they have and their soil types. And there's a lot of different factors. I know earlier in the season, I passed some cornfields on the way to work in Wayne County. That looked better. They had a little bit more rain than we did in certain areas. I know going to field days this year, a lot of them towards the coast, they've had a lot more rain down that way. Their crops look a lot more healthier, a lot bigger and stuff than ours. So it just very much varies depending on where you're at across the state.
Yes, it does. I know when I go visit my family in Camden County, the crops look way different there than they do here. So that's been a big thing I've noticed. And soil type also plays a factor into dictating how this summer has gone. So when you're sitting at your desk in the Greene County office or you're on the farm, what has been the biggest questions that you've gotten from farmers this season?
My biggest questions have been about fertility, also disease, and then it's also right here towards, we're getting close to September. I'm getting a lot more questions about our pesticide credits. We actually have a couple classes coming up. We had a V credit today. We have some more classes in August. We have Z and X on August 25th. And then in September, we're going to offer another V class, September 16th, and then another X and Z class, September 22nd. We also have peanut pod blasting coming up, and I've had a few questions about when I'm going to offer that, and I'm about to send out a few of the dates. So yeah, a couple things coming up, and those are the main questions that I've had so far.
Thank you so much for letting us know about your pesticide credit classes coming up, Hannah? Because I know it can be difficult to fit in your schedule, like the different days that are having, so knowing when the surrounding counties are also hosting their credit classes, that is really important for growers. Have there been any pest, disease, or fertility issues that have specifically stood out to you this year? Like, what has been kind of like a case that you've gotten that is noteworthy?
Early in the season, there was a couple of fertility issues, mainly because it was so dry, the plants were not taking up the nutrients. So we saw a lot of nutrient deficiencies and stuff, mainly just because the plants were not able to take those up. And then now, depending on your crop, I'm not seeing a ton of disease in soybeans so far, but as far as tobacco, I have seen a lot of disease. It's not uncommon for me to see black shank and granville wilt, but usually the disease is kind of sporadic or in like pockets, certain areas of the field. This year I've seen it, I call it a blanket. It's like a blanket effect across the entire field. It's almost every plant. And it just depends on where you're at, but I have seen some fields like that. So I started asking around because it's very intense how much disease is out there. We think it's because it was so dry early on, so we had a lot of stress. So the disease was, it was out there, but we just couldn't see it. And then when we started getting rain, it's just like it kind of exploded across the field. So that's definitely been very unusual. It's really stood out so far this year.
Yeah, that's a really good insight. And I can say that Lenore County has experienced some of the similar issues as far as disease and tobacco is going. So here's a fun question for you. If you could spend a day riding around with every single grower in Greene County, what would you want them to pay attention to in their fields?
Right now, scouting for insects and diseases that are out there, especially this time of year.
Yeah, scouting is very, very important right now, especially in soybeans.
Yes, very much so.
What management practices are you saying are paying off the most for your producers this year?
The main thing this year that's really paying off is our variety selection, especially if you had more drought-resistant varieties, a good crop rotation, and then just scouting in general.
So, looking at all those, there's some common mistakes that farmers make. What would you say has been the most common mistake you would caution your farmers to avoid this season?
I know I've talked a lot about disease so far, but that's just a big issue that I deal with a lot, so I'm going to have to go back to that. Cleaning your equipment. I know it's hard going from field to field to always stop and, clean your equipment or make sure you're not spreading anything. I think the biggest thing is if you're in a field that has a known disease, especially in the past, just making sure that you're cleaning it before you go to a different field, or maybe trying to go make sure that's one of the last fields that you go to. That's the biggest issue that I've seen so far.
Thank you. I kind of want to switch gears a little bit. I've heard a lot about what your thoughts are about the growing season so far and what advice you have going forward in this growing season, but I kind of want to hear a little bit more about the work you're specifically doing. So can you tell me a little bit about what kind of research trials that you are conducting and excited about this season?
Yeah, so I have 3 trials across the county this year. So I have a corn trial, a peanut trial, and then a soybean trial. And this is my first year doing a soybean trial in the county, so I'm really excited about that one.
So can you just tell me a little bit about what your corn trial entails this year?
Yeah, so my corn trial has several different varieties. We plant all our varieties in the field. We have checks throughout the field, which is a certain variety that we're using to use to compare and stuff. Right now, the corn trial, as I said, it's been super dry. It doesn't look the best, but that's also some of the years when we get really good data of which varieties are more drought tolerant than others. So it won't be much longer. We'll start harvesting. Each variety we'll harvest, we'll weigh it, we'll get our moisture on it, and then we'll start over and do every variety like that. And then at the end, we'll rank on between what was the best all the way to the worst.
See, that's super important, especially because it's county specific, so you're getting data right there in Greene County to let farmers know what corn variety performed the absolute best under this extreme drought year. So that's just really cool.
And there are several other counties that do this same corn trial, so it's really good to see, especially at the end when we're all done, which varieties rank better depending on what county you're in, what soil type you're in, what the weather conditions were. So it's really good data, especially for our growers specifically within the county to look back on when they're making those decisions for the next year.
Yes. So can you tell me a little bit about your soybean trial? I know you said this is your first year doing it, so I know you're excited about the results you're going to get from that.
Yes, so it is a fungicide trial. So far, we haven't seen a lot of disease in soybeans, so not sure exactly how much data we'll get off of it this year, but we'll see. Like I said, we're getting more rain, so we might see more disease pop up in soybeans a little bit later on. But really, we're looking at a certain fungicide to see if it helps or if it doesn't help. That's what we're looking at right now.
That's really cool. And lastly, your peanut trial. Can you give me a little bit more about what exactly you're studying in your peanut trial?
Yes, I have two. So the first one is a variety trial. So we're looking at 4 different varieties of peanuts, seeing which one does the best. It'll be similar to our corn trial. We'll weigh each plot, get the moisture off of those, and then see what was our best variety. That one's also done in multiple different counties. So again, it's really good to see what does better in Greene County versus maybe say like Wayne County. And then the next one is a tillage trial. So I have bedded, I have stripped, and then I have flat. So we planted peanuts into all of those. And then we're going to see at the end which one does the best. I think bedded's probably going to do the best, but we'll see when we start harvesting.
Now, because I personally don't know this, where do growers actually get to view this data after you guys finish these trials? Because like when I started, I didn't really have time to start many trials this year. So if I wanted to go look at your data from Greene County, where exactly do we view it? Do you guys post it? Does the university post it? Where do we get this information from after these trials are done?
I will put it on our county website, and then also I have an email list, and I'll do a newsletter, and I send it out to all of my growers that way. So anybody that's not on my email list, I'd be glad to put them on there, and then that's how they'll get that information specifically for the county.
Yes, I will be sure to add your email and your contact information to the description of this podcast. So looking ahead at harvest, what factors do you think will have the biggest impact on yields this year?
The biggest impacts, I think, soil type's going to play a factor. Also, our weather patterns, our rainfall, and then to go along with our weather patterns, if we get any hurricanes, because we're in hurricane season, that's going to have a big impact on our yields as we go forward.
Yes, it sure will. I'm going to wrap up our podcast by doing something called rapid fire questions. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I kind of just want you to tell me exactly what the first thing is that comes to your mind. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. What is your favorite crop to work with?
Tobacco and peanuts.
What is the most underrated scouting tool, in your opinion?
Oh, that's a good one. Probably the sweep net. I use that a lot in college when looking at insects. I don't use it as much now as I should, but I think that one's definitely underrated.
And lastly, what is the best piece of advice you've received? It could be from a farmer or a mentor, but what would you tell our growers today?
The best piece of advice that I got when I started, and I still use it, is just be honest. You know, I deal with a lot of crops. I didn't come from a farming background, and it has been a lot to learn. And just be honest. You know, if you don't know something, just don't give them the wrong answer. Even if you think you know it, but you're a little unsure, just take the time to double check and make sure you're giving them the right answer. I found that growers really appreciate that. And, you know, time is money and everything's very expensive, so I definitely don't want to give them the wrong advice.
That's right. So do you have any comments or anything you would like to say to wrap up this episode of Between the Rows?
Yeah, so since I've started in Greene County, I have worked with some really great growers. Everybody has been wonderful to work with. I'm getting a lot more calls now than I used to. I know when I started, I mentioned to some of the growers, you know, even if you have a rep going out or if you know what the issue is, you know, I would just love to see stuff in the field. And I've had right many call and say, you know, I have an issue. I know what it is, but if you'd like to come look at it, you know, here it is. And I've gone out there and looked, and, you know, I've got some really great growers that I can call and ask questions and stuff. And they've just all been great to work with, and I've really enjoyed it so far.
Well, I would like to thank you so much, Hannah, for joining me on this episode of Between the Rows. This has been super informative, and I really enjoy collaborating with you. I will put all the information about Hannah's pesticide classes as well as her email in the description. Thank you for tuning in.
Yes, thank you so much.
That wraps up another episode of Between the Rows. Thank you so much for tuning in today and spending some time with me. If today's conversation sparked a question, or there's a topic you'd like me to cover in a future episode, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me by email at rachel_howell@ncsu.edu, or you can call our office at 252-527-2191. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next episode.